Hello there. This is Through Spades, and recently I had to unsub from another shitty channel called Trigger Zolt, because he made a really terrible video, this Windows 10 survival guide for 2025, where he proceeded to say, don't use Windows 10, just upgrade to 11 because it looks good. Oh, and Windows 10 is going to run out of security, or whatever. Here's the thing about Windows 11. I think the biggest security issue is how many people are giving out horrible advice and trying to scam you into buying a new computer and then trying to extort and blackmail existing Windows 10 users. That's extortion. That's what it is. So, I don't recommend using Windows 11. The whole thing is locked down, a lot, when it tries to get set up. They're putting a ton of walls and barriers in your way. It's going to end up being the same thing you're going to have to do with Windows 10 here. If you even want to use Windows 11, just use the first version of it and don't update. It's the same advice I'm going to really give with Windows 10 here, is use the oldest version you can and don't update. Because ask yourself, what does an update do? What does an update do for you, right? Well, last time I checked, an update is supposed to be an improvement, and an update is supposed to add more, good stuff for you, right? Well, as it turns out, the numbers don't lie. Tech Yes City did a great video here where he actually figured out, according to a few comments on Reddit, this was, December 17th, 2020. He figured out that it's not even a margin of error. When he was doing some basic tests, he figured out that games were running 30% better on Windows 10 from 2015. Did you know you can still use that? Did you know you can still use that old, outdated version and get better gaming performance? You can still use Steam. You can still have support from basically every modern antivirus. Did you know that Avast, Bitdefender, Avira, AVG, all the free stuff, even Windows Defender, will still work on the oldest version of Windows 10, that being 15.07? So, in all actuality, if you're concerned about your security on Windows 10, well, you really shouldn't be unless you're going to malicious websites, or a website gets hacked or something, or you're doing something a bit risky, like piracy, or, trying to hack into servers or stuff, which that's not exactly the most legal thing, but realistically, if you think about it, because the way they positioned this operating system to work, the only way that you could get a virus on your computer, or the only way you could get some kind of threat on your computer, is if you initiate the first step. It doesn't get there by itself. Even though Microsoft has attempted to put their own software that just installs for you, who has to press the install button? Who has to initiate the installation of Windows 10? This is why they can't force you to do this stuff. They're not entirely strong-arming you, but they're not making it easy to opt out. What you have to do, and it's really fucking stupid, is with Windows 10, you can skip the out-of-box experience, especially on I think even the newest or the oldest ones, doesn't matter. And I'll be linking these videos so you can see. There's a performance comparison between 15.07 and 21H1. You're going to figure out that it's going to be faster the older version of Windows you tend to use that your hardware can support. Which, that is my upscaler. I did not mean to press that. It delivers, so anyway, Windows 10, the older you go, the faster your performance is going to be, and the more stable your computer is going to be. Because here's the thing with updates, right? Do you ever find it peculiar that every single time Microsoft has updated the operating system, they have found a way to deteriorate the performance even more? Well, then, on top of that, they fire all of their QA testers, Well, that couldn't be correlated in any way, shape, or form, right? Well, gee, I don't know. Basic cause and effect and process of elimination is going to dictate the contrary. So, unless you're doing something stupid or installing bad updates that don't work, that break down from Big Bill Hell's Microsoft or Hell's Windows, you won't really need to worry too much about your security, because most of the Windows 10 and even now 11 updates, which have repeated the exact same mistakes verbatim, tend to deteriorate and degrade performance simply as a result of saying, hey, we'd like to update this for you. You can choose when you want to or not. And then nowadays they've taken away that option. Well, you can still install all of this stuff offline. You can outright remove the update component from Windows. Because here's the thing about Windows. It is not as locked down as every guy with Linux is going to tell you. Linux is pretty locked down because it's not finished. When you realize that the whole point of open source is I want to whine and cry and have you finish my shit for me, well, you're not obligated to do someone else's job for them. It doesn't matter. If a competitor with, say, Windows here is going to work the best it can or work a lot better for you, then I recommend you use it. But if Linux is going to work and your hardware would benefit from that, computers are not going to be a one-size-fits-all thing. This is not going to be an easy choice, but you're going to have benefits and trade-offs no matter where you go. Say with Linux, right? You're going to end up losing a lot of stuff you take for granted because they don't want to be Windows, yet they still want Windows in their stuff constantly. That's why they'll make Proton, because they don't want to be Windows, right? They don't want to be Windows, but they understand the necessity of having to compete with it. But they don't want to go all the way. They just want to half-ass it, right? They don't want to really go all the way and try to undercut and undermine Microsoft by doing really good work where every kind of program is supported, all your music plugins are supported, you have basic setup and installers like these, you don't ever have to touch a command line. You know, a normal person doesn't have to code. You should not have to do the job of a company or any person who has provided you with a product in order to be able to then use that product in the way that it was intended. That's the screwy thing that Apple really messed up with the iPhone by saying, hey, we feel like we shouldn't allow you to install whatever you want on this thing you purchased. And that attitude has infected Microsoft and just about every company since. And the CPU usage you'll find, this is the thing, right? There were way less limitations on older versions of Windows 10. The more they updated it, the more locked down it became. Same thing is happening with Windows 11. The more it gets updated, the more locked down it becomes. You know, this was the butt of a joke back in Windows Vista, where there was Mac versus PC commercials. Also, these shorts are fucking stupid. This is why I try not to go on anonymous YouTube, because usually it will show me porn. Or shit that looks very suggestive. Because the default experience for YouTube is basically softcore Pornhub. Disgusting. But anyway, here's 66 Mac versus PC ads where they proceed to basically talk about every fucking issue that computers have, you know, how slow they can be, crashes, blue screens, all the setup and dumb shit you'd have to do to try and sell you on a Mac. A Mac isn't much better, I'll admit it, but, you know. This will give you some good advice as well. If even as far back as Windows Vista, 98, Windows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and whatever, they have had these issues, you can imagine how this is just not going to change, and you need to find whatever is the lesser of two evils. Should it be this way? Absolutely not. But if that's the nature of the beast, that's the nature of the beast. You need to figure out how you're going to deal with that. And on the case of Windows 10, there are many, many options I'm going to link in the description. You can totally use Windows 10. Don't let any sucker like this dickweed here tell you otherwise. Oh, just upgrade to Windows 11, or just use Linux. No. Those are not going to make your computer better. In fact, they're going to make it slower. They're going to make it work less efficiently. There have been speed tests on this guy's own fucking channel showing how Windows 8 even is faster than 10. You know, if you want to even use Windows 8, you totally can. You want to use Windows 7, you totally can. There are channels of people, and one I've seen is this guy, Harvey. Windows 7. No, hold on. Let me see. Let me see if we can find it. Here we are. Harvey's World of Randomness. Little Cal Kestis here. Guess what? He's using AMD control panel to record his desktop. Here's a whole 12-minute video of how he's still using Windows 7, and he could do so indefinitely and safely. Oh, well, they don't have official programs and official support, but that shouldn't stop you from still being able to use what you want, because they've provided all of these tools and stuff for anybody to use and make software for Windows 10 for the rest of time. Windows XP still gets GitHub projects. You have browsers for even Windows ME 2095. If the Amish can get by on a horse and a cart, you can use Windows 10. You can use Windows 7 forever. Obviously, though, you know, it's basic shit that anybody should understand. Don't go downloading everything you see on the internet. Don't go believing everything you see on the internet. Use your common sense. You know, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is, or it probably is a virus, so don't use it. Or, otherwise, if something is free, well, then how are they getting their money, right? Like, it's a Vast, right? It's a data miner. I mean, obviously, they have to get their money somehow, so you give up your privacy in that regard. The reason why I use Windows 10 ameliorated isn't so much for the privacy as it is for the functionality. This shit works. It's fast. Boom, 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 boom. How many processes do I have running here? 87. And that's because I've got like 500 tabs open. And you might think, oh, well, maybe I want to just make a machine that works better with Windows 10 or something, you know? Maybe there's some hardware I could use, but I don't want to spend a lot of money as well. Like, if you wanted to go out of your way, make a machine using Windows 10, you could go get like an old Xeon. You could go get a Xeon motherboard. You could get an old Dell Vostro 3000 or something. These are really cheap as well. They have really good computers and parts in them. That's an i7 12th gen. Look at that. That's cheap as shit. So, you're not lacking in options or means to use Windows 10. You're not lacking in hardware or software. If an official source pulls down their stuff, you can always go pirate it, but you know, obviously that's the risk you take with piracy. Is there's no honor among thieves. It's theft. So, you know, you do so at your own risk. My abandonware, old games download, or websites where you can find abandonware. Windows 10 is now abandonware. Windows 8, 7, XP, Vista, 95, 2000, even MS-DOS are all classified as abandonware, which is a legal gray area. That means you can't exactly make money off of it, but if you're stealing shit, well, you know, it's not exactly piracy. Because if a company has taken down every legal means and every legitimate means for you to use what you've purchased or use what you wish to use, in the case of Windows 7 or 8, basically every operating system before 10 currently, you can no longer legally activate the software. So there's nothing against just using a mass grave or Windows activation script or some kind of spoofer to activate your Windows. that anybody would really have. Plus, what cop is going to come to your house and say, "Yo, buddy, you're not using a legitimate copy of Windows 10. I'm going to have to take you to the big house." No one. You think the cops buy their own fucking Windows 10? They are the law. They pirate that shit too. Let's be real here. You think the library is using a legally purchased $200, $300 copy of Windows 10? No. They have pirated that shit too. Nobody cares. If YouTube cares, it's only to scare you and control you. If people care like this dickweed, it's only to scare and control you. He's contradicted his own shit on this fucking, on this channel. How ironic. And how ironic is it that older advice now seems to be a lot better than this new stuff that I keep seeing. You want to use Windows 10? You most definitely can. You're going to have links and resources to all of this stuff in the description. I'm using Windows 10 1903 right now. I've customized it using OpenShell. Looks like Windows 8 now. I can make it look all manners of ways if I want. Let's say I want to make it look like, Windows Vista even. Maybe I want to mess with the colors. Oh yeah. How about I have the scroll bar from Windows 8? Yep. Maybe I'd like to have big icons. Yep, I can do that too. Maybe I'd like to add glass to this, or make it transparent, or have no taskbar. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that with open source programs. You can do that with a few proprietary programs as well. It is not impossible to customize and use your Windows 10. If anybody is telling you different, they're full of shit. Oh, well, that's the thing. Oh, it's not very secure. Linux is not secure either. They've had many hacks like XYZ. They've had a few JavaScript issues as well, not to mention various GitHub people going on politically charged, rants and taking down all of their software, or demanding that you bow down to their political ideology with the Rust programming language, for instance, in order to use their software. Or the guy who literally made the whole operating system himself, Linus Torvalds. Or Torvalds, however the hell you're supposed to say his fucking name. Don't know, don't care. He's a political puppet. The whole fucking thing has been hijacked by furries and, the usual ordeal. The whole Rainbow Alphabet Mafia. I don't have a problem with people believing in what they believe in. I have a problem when they attempt to impose that upon others. And especially when they just say shit that isn't fucking true. In order to scare people. So, it's fucking stupid. You want to use Windows 10? Have fun.